Hello everyone, welcome to another interesting and informative session of the Analyst brought to you by Vajiram and Ravi. In today's video, we will discuss 5 important topics as featured in the Hindu and Indian Express for your larger understanding of the current affairs. The topics are as follows. In the first article, we will read about the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel and its impact on India's interest. Then in the second article, we will inquire about the prevailing issue of food insecurity and provide some suggestive measures. Then in the third article, we will examine the declining total fertility rate in Asian countries. In the fourth article, we are going to read about the father of Indian Constitution, B.R. Ambedkar, and then in the fifth article, we will read about a cosmic phenomena called as nebula. Towards the end, there will be news snippets especially curated for the upcoming prelims examination, so stay tuned. With recent attack on Israel by Iran on 14th of April, the geopolitical tensions have emerged in Middle East and Gulf region, significantly impacting India's strategic interest in the region. Thus, the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict forms an important component of your GS2 paper under the theme of Effect of Policies and Politics of Developed and Developing Countries on India's interest as well as diaspora. So, what is the backdrop of the ongoing conflict? The answer lies in the formation of State of Israel in the year of 1948. In the late 19th century, there emerged Zionism, which was basically an ethno-nationalist movement to create a homeland for Jewish people in the region of Palestine. Such demand for a Jewish nation further grew significantly during the period of World War II, especially after the collapse of Hitler's Germany and the revealing of Nazi Holocaust done on Jewish people. Thus, with the support of United Nations and Britishers who had occupied this region after the withdrawal of Ottomans, the State of Israel was formed in the year 1948. Which was immediately followed by the conflict between the Zionist settlers who were thronging to the region and the Arab people who were already living in that region, ultimately causing the 1949 the first Arab-Israeli war, in which the Israel turned out to be victorious because of the support of United Nations, USA, Britain, etc. and leading to the division of that particular area into 3 parts. The first was the Jewish Israel, the second was the Arabs occupied West Bank, and the third was Gaza Strip. Further conflict rose for the occupation of this territory, which transformed into a 6-day war which took place in the year of 1967. Where Israel fought a coalition of Arab states and defeated them due to its advanced military technology, and ultimately leading to the occupation of Jerusalem, the West Bank region, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights from Syria, as well as the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Now keep this in mind that in this 6-day war, a major absentee was Iran. Because Iran till then was being ruled by the Pahlavi dynasty. And this Pahlavi dynasty was a major ally of USA. And also one of the first Muslim states to recognize the State of Israel. The example of which is the year of 1977 when Mohammad Reza Pahlavi signed an oil for arms contract with Israel, where Israel agreed to supply advanced level surface-to-surface missile to Iran in the exchange of oil. However, the relations took a 360-degree turn in the year of 1979 with Islamic Revolution in Iran, which ultimately led to the establishment of a theocratic state. After which the Iran self-proclaimed itself as the leader of the world's Shia Muslims and started aspiring for have direct influence in the region of Palestine, Iraq and Lebanon. thus ultimately leading to Intifada wars. Intifada, which is basically an Arabic term which stands for Shake of Wars, which took place from 1987 to 1993 and then 2000 to 2005, where Iran basically tried to rise the Palestinians against Israel and curb down the Western influence in the region, especially by USA. Thus, Iran over the years has formed an axis of resistance where it supplies arms, ammunitions and funds several kind of militant groups against Israel and Western influences such as specifically from USA. Some of the prominent militant groups under this axis of resistance are Hezbollah, which was set up as by the Revolutionary Guards of the Iran in the year of 1982 to fight against the Israeli forces in the Lebanon region. Then there is Hamas, which is basically a Sunni Islamist militant group which emerged during the first Intifada wars, which took place from 1987 to 93 as a major opposition to Zionism, and since 2007 they have taken the control of Gaza Strip. Then there are Houthis, the very famous, who has been repeatedly in the news, who took the control of the northern Yemen when they captured the capital Sana'a in 2014. The countries such as Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates has tried to form an alliance against these Houthis who are attacking various kind of commercial ships in the Red Sea region and trying to curtail and curb down the trade in the Red Sea as an opposition to attack by Israel on Palestinians. Now one may wonder that what are the causes of the recent escalation of attacks by Iran, where it has gone an all-out war on Israel even after severe geopolitical pressure. The first reason is the octopus doctrine of the former president of Israel, Naftali Bennett, who was the prime minister till 2022, where he stated that instead of attacking the tentacles or several military units, Israel shall aim to eliminate the head of the octopus, which is Iran. And this all-out attack policy has been followed by his successor and the current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as well. Then this maximum resistance policy of Iran, which is visible from its continuous attack on its opponent and trying to assert its influence on the region, is actually a mirror to the maximum pressure policy which was adopted by USA. The first step USA took in this direction was to bring Iran under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or JCPOA, under which USA tried to curb the nuclear power ambition of Iran by ensuring that Iran does not get access to weapon-grade uranium or uranium with concentration of more than 20%. However, Iran repeatedly violated the guidelines of International Atomic Energy Agency, and because of which USA ultimately withdrew from JCPOA in 2018 under the presidentship of Donald Trump. Then USA tried to further drain Iran from economic sources by imposing CAATSA or Countering America's Adversaries through Sanction Act and making sure that the allies of USA does not trade with Iran. The brunt of this CAATSA had to bear by India as well, as it had to curb down its oil import from Iran to zero and thus look towards alternative sources of oil which were expensive at that time. Then USA designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist group in 2019 and further played a pivotal role in the assassination of the Quds chief. Quds is basically a paramilitary organization of IRGC, Qasim Soleimani, in the year of 2020. In the very same year, USA played a pivotal role in Abraham Accords of 2020, which were signed to normalize the relation between Israel and Gulf states such as United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, thus further strengthening the anti-Iran axis. Thus, isolated and weakened, Iran has resorted to strengthen its military units in several countries, fund them, sponsor them, and do repeated attacks, which, according to the political theorist Suhasini Haider, will lead Iran to assert its influence in the region. Keep this in mind that such attacks and such geopolitical conflicts which take place, India is not isolated from that because the world has turned into a global village. The history stands as an example for that. For example, when the American Revolutionary War was taking place and the patriots were dumping the tea of East India Company in the Boston Harbor, they were very well aware about the atrocities committed by this East India Company in Calcutta after the Battle of Plassey 1757. Similarly, when the American Civil War took place between 1861 to 65, its after effect led to the Deccan Revolts of 1870 in Maharashtra. Thus, the Ministry of External Affairs has been quick in taking the note of such escalation and has warned the states to not escalate the conflict, which can severely impact our strategic interest in the region. So, in this context, let's try to understand the India-Israel dynamics, where India shares a very strong economic ties with Israel, with our bilateral trade standing for up to $10 billion. Keep this in mind that the balance of trade with Israel is in our favor, and India is the third largest trade partner in Asia for Israel, where we export several key materials to Israel such as chemicals, electric, textiles, agriculture products, etc. Also, very recently, Indian companies such as ONGC and Indian Oil has granted exploration license in Tamar and Leviathan gas fields in Israel. Also, Israel plays a key role in the formalization of India-Middle East-Europe corridor, through which India aims to get access to the Eastern European markets and form a counterbalance to the China's Belt and Road Initiative. Also, we share a strategic ties with Israel, where we have recently formed I2U2 grouping or India-Israel UAE-USA grouping to ensure regional stability in the region. Then India and Israel together has launched an innovation fund to increase research and development in various emerging fields of technology. Also, India and Israel has formed a joint working group on counter-terrorism, and keep this in mind that there is more than 18,000 Indian diaspora who lives in Israel at this moment, and they are very prone to the effects of the ongoing conflict. On similar lines, India also shares a very strategic tie with Iran, where our bilateral trade, even though it is not as big as Iran, it stands at around $2.3 billion and it increased 23% in the recent years. Keep this in mind that it was significantly impacted because of the sanctions under CAATSA. Also, as India is a heavily import-dependent country when it comes to our oil needs with more than 80% reliance, then if there will be a conflict in this particular region of Gulf, it will ultimately lead to the increase in the oil prices, and thus we will have an issue of imported inflation, where the prices of goods and services will ultimately increase in our economy, and these issues can significantly hamper our growth prospects. Then, India is also envisaging to build an international north-south transport corridor, for which Iran is a key, through the Chabahar port which we are building here, which will provide us access further en route to the Central Asian countries, to the south of Russia and to the eastern economy. Then in Iran, we have more than 10,000 plus diaspora. As can be seen that India shares strategic ties with both Iran and Israel, it will be very difficult for our country to maintain a neutral position, as there are chances that the world powers such as USA, China, Russia all will get involved in this whirlpool of events. Thus, it is important for our country to ensure that there exists a global consensus on de-escalation of war, and at the same time we shall strive to ensure that both Iran and Israel follows the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relation 1961 guidelines to ensure harmony and peace in the region. With these suggestions, we move forward to the next news of the day. The editorial in Indian Express highlights the increasing vulnerabilities to climate change and its impact on food security in the country, and also provide for some adequate reforms which shall be taken. This issue of food security forms an important component of your GS3 paper. So let's first try to examine the status of prevailing food insecurity in our country. As per the United Nations report, India is currently the most populous country in the world, and our population is further going to increase up to 1.6 billion by the year of 2047. Thus, to feed this 16% of population of the world, we only have 2.4% of the land surface and 4% of the water resources at our disposal. Also, as per the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, currently the net sown area in our country stands at 42%. And this net sown area cannot be drastically increased in the future because we are already overpopulated. Then comes the issue of decline in food productivity. As we are aware from all the news which are happening around us about the climate change being induced caused by global warming, the impact of El Nino, which alters the rainfall patterns for our country, the weakening patterns of western disturbances which used to bring the much needed winter rainfall, all of this can lead to decline in food productivity. For example, as per the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, the rain-fed agriculture employs 60% of the farmers, which also showcases the poor state of irrigation facilities in our country. Then, as per the IPCC second AR report, by 2050, the rice and maize production in our country is going to decline by 20 to 30%. Also, as per the UN report, the India's Indo-Gangetic plains, which produce 14 to 15% of the world's wheat, they are going to suffer significantly from the climate change-induced heat stress. Then, because of the impact of El Nino, the agricultural GDP growth has dropped from 4.7% in 2022 to a mere 0.7% in 2023. Then, we are also witnessing the loss of arable land, right? For example, if there is rising sea level, it will ultimately cause to the salt water intrusion in the inland areas, which will ultimately make the water ineffective to use it for the agriculture purposes. Thus, for example, even though we have the world's lowest below the sea level farming system in Kerala, in Kuttanad, that will not be able to take place in the future because of the salt water intrusion. Then there is issue of decline in the quality of the food, which according to Food and Agriculture Organization, temperature over above 35 degrees Celsius leads to heat stress in the plants, and thus they are incapable to adapt to this increasing global warming, because of which they produces non-viable pollens and thus ultimately declining the quality of the food. Then there is increasing issue of pest and disease, who thrives in hot and tropical climate, and because of the rising temperature we have also witnessed rise in these diseases such as pink bollworm or fall armyworm. All of these are actually impacting the productivity of the crops, which can also be seen from the case study here, where there was a tomato price inflation in 2023 and the prices soared up to 200%. The major reason for that was heat waves and delayed monsoon, which led to the pest attack with the rise of two viruses. One was tomato mosaic and the other was cucumber mosaic, which ultimately impacted the crop tomato and led to the heavy inflation. Then there is obviously the negative impact on the livestock. For example, issues such as ocean acidification because of the rising sea surface temperature. All this can impact the population of fish, which can ultimately hamper the people who thrive on such livestock as well. At the same time, all these issues in cumulative manner can have a significant dent on the economy, where we can take the example of the case study of Himachal Pradesh apple economy, where in the last 2023, in the month of February, there was incessant rainfall, and in the month of May, there was dearth of rainfall as well as heat waves, which significantly impacted the production of the apple as well as decline in the quality, and significantly impacted the traders involved, the people in the logistics, as well as most importantly the farmers. Then there is the rising issue of water stress in central India. So let's say that if the underground water is declining, if there is no water even left to cultivate the crops, then the two things can happen. First, either it will lead to rampant outward migration from this region, or it will lead to these regions completely relying on the import of food from outside, thus leading to high inflation. And it will obviously impact the poor people who are residing in these regions. Then obviously, because of all this, the farmer's income has declined, which ultimately hampers our aim to double the farmer's income. And then these people has now more vulnerable to the issue of poverty, which can also be reflected from the Global Hunger Index of 2023, where India ranked 111th out of 125 countries, much below than our neighboring countries such as Bangladesh, Nepal and Sri Lanka. And the child stunting in our country stands at a high rate of 35%, where they have low height as per their age. Then child wasting or having low weight according to their height, these is 18%, which is highest in the world. And then 16% of the people were undernourished. Thus, to tackle with these issues, the government has taken several steps. First and foremost, to ensure food security in our country, the government has launched National Food Security Act 2013, under which subsidized rice, wheat, staple food is provided to 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population. Then the government has launched Poshan Abhiyan, under which we are striving for food fortification to ensure nutritious food supply to children, women, elderly. Then the government has also launched midday meal scheme to provide cooked food in the primary government schools. Also, in the budget of 2023, the government launched Agricultural Accelerator Fund, where we are trying to promote startups in rural India to ensure that they can find some innovative technological solutions for climate resilient agriculture. Then, in these extreme weather events, the crop losses can become a normal scenario. To ensure these crops of the farmer, the government has launched Fasal Bima Yojana. At the same time, the government has also launched the Parampragat Krishi Vikas Yojana, in which we are promoting the organic farming to ensure climate resilient agriculture. And on this very same line, the government has launched a national millet missions. Millets are basically the crops such as ragi, which are drought resistant and can be grown in the region with less water availability. Also, these millets offer several other kind of benefits, such as they can improve the heart health, they can also act as an antioxidants, they contain high amount of irons, thus providing the adequate nutrition. They also are excellent for the strengthening the nervous system of a human being, and they can also protect the body tissues from various kind of radical damages. Keep this in mind that all millets are gluten-free and are recommended for celiac patients. Also, the government has launched Eat Right movement to bring behavioral change in Indian society, where we shall discard to eat trans fat foods and adopt such nutritious food as millets. However, the reports also provide for some innovative solutions, such as transforming the food system by making sure that we effectively use our land, labor, agriculture input, all these kind of resources. And for this purpose, the report suggests that there shall be increase in the research and development investments in the agriculture food system. Then the reports vouch for investment in the climate resilient agriculture. For example, per drop more crop initiative of Krishi Sinchai Yojana, under which we can adopt for innovative methods such as intercropping or for drip irrigation to provide efficient irrigation. Then we can also adopt for precision agriculture or agroforestry method. Then there is a requirement of logistic revolution, because as per the report, more than 66% of the population is going to reside in urban areas by the year of 2047. Thus, there shall be innovative measures in logistic as well, and there shall be market-aligned rules. Then the report suggests to integrate the small land-holding farmers. As per the Swaminathan Commission report, there are more than 86% of farmers who have less than 2 hectares of land, which has further fragmented over the years. Thus, the report suggests to bring these farmers under the farmer producer organizations and market cooperatives such as Amul in the milk industry. Then the report suggests for food fortification to curb malnutrition, for example, use of golden rice with beta carotene. And then for all these purposes, there is urgent need to form public-private partnership. All these steps are imperative to ensure that the future of India does not sleep in hunger. With this, we move forward to the next news of the day. Data point highlights how many countries in East and Southeast Asia are in the middle of a population crisis with rapidly declining total fertility rate. Total fertility rate basically stands for the number of children a woman is expected to have. And if this TFR stands at 2.1, that is considered as a replacement rate, or the rate at which the population will remain stable, will neither increase nor decline. Thus, this issue of population crisis being faced by the Asian countries, including India, forms an important component of your GS1 paper under the theme of population and associated issues. So let's try to examine the findings of the report, according to which Between 1950 to 1970, the fertility rate in East and Southeast Asia countries ranged from 3.5 to 7.5, meaning like one couple were having around 3.5 to 7 children. Then currently for the countries in Asia such as South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, this total fertility rate has declined lower than 1, which basically signifies two things. Either the family is choosing to have one child, or these women are completely declining to have a child or to further increase their generation. India's TFR, on the other hand, stands at 2 currently, which is very close to the replacement rate as we talked about, and it has significantly declined from being 5.7 in the year of 1968. As we can see from the map, the lowest TFRs which exist around the world are of countries such as Spain, Italy, Ukraine and Finland, which is obviously much lower than 1. Now these Asian countries are also falling very close to these low TFR countries. As we can see with India as well, it has rapidly declined from being 5.7 to currently 2.03. Now one may wonder what are the causes of such rampant decline in TFR. Well, as per the data point, there are, first of all, the strict family planning measures which were taken by the country to ensure the optimum use of their limited resources and to increase their economic prospectus. For example, in Singapore, it adopted for two-child policy, and the slogan of that policy was, the more child you have, the less they will get in the future. On similar lines, China went one step further and imposed a one-child policy. In our country, does such policy has ever been framed? Keep this in mind that India was the first country in the world to launch national level family planning program. However, we have relied on behavioral nudging and we have not imposed the number of children on families yet. Then the second reason is the rising opportunities for women. As their education level has increased, the paying jobs have increased, and also there has been diversification of job opportunities with the rising industry 4.0. Also, when these women, when they get pregnant, most of the companies, they just try to vacate their place. And this income loss which happens for pregnant women, it actually stops these women to get pregnant. To prevent such measures in our country, the government has launched the Maternity Benefit Act of 2017, under which 26 weeks paid leave is provided for the women. Also keep this in mind that there is another aspect towards it. As the education level of women is increasing, they are also being more aware about the contraceptive measures. And now there is more acceptance of such measures even penetrating into rural India. Then there is obviously the dropping marriage rates, which is obviously another social issue. For example, because of the forced arranged marriages which take place, there is high divorce rate. Then there is this inevitable search of an ideal partner, because of which sometimes the age goes above the bar. So all of these, there are multiple factors which just comes together, and it has led to the dropping of marriage rates in our country. Then obviously there is the spiraling cost of raising a child. For example, if you want your children to get educated, get good education, to have a good future prospect, then you will make sure that your children goes into a good school. Now here is a structure of the school fees of some famous schools in our country. As we can see, this fees for class 4th to 10th is raising more than 1,55,000. Just few years earlier, the whole generation, 7 generations used to study in this amount. But now these schools are charging these hefty amounts, because of which instead of having multiple children, the parents are trying to have one or two child policy so that they can have good access to education, they get good resources. So this economic factor has come into play as well, because of which there is severe impact which the society is facing. The first of which is the increasing issue of silver economy, or the people who are aged above 60 to 65 years and thus dependent on their immediate family. As per a report, there will be around 300 million elderly people in our country by the year of 2050. And the current population of elderly which we have, it is fast reaching the current size of the population of Mexico and Russia. This will obviously leads to the issue of huge dependency, and thus we have a short window to utilize our demographic dividend, or basically the people who are aged between 15 to 59 years considered as a working age. Then this high total fertility rate still prevails in the families which are economically weaker. So the families who have got access to good education, good medical health care, access to contraceptives, open to accept them, they have been able to decrease their TFR. But there is still prevalence of high TFR in economically weaker section, which ultimately leads to issues such as poverty, the vicious cycle. Then there is issue of low education, making of low capital, etc. Also, now because these families, they want only one or two children, there exists in our country a major issue of son meta preference, or to have a male child who will, according to these theories, will take the generation forward. Now, because they want only one or two child, it will ultimately lead to a lot of sex selective abortions, ultimately causing a skewed sex ratio in our country. Thus, as we can see from these rising issues, the family planning has become an imperative component to ensure stability in our country. And such adequate family planning measures shall also be adopted by other Asian countries as well. With these suggestions, we move forward to the next news of the day. The article highlights the grave impact of B.R. Ambedkar's teaching, or Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar's teaching, in today's time and their dissemination through the use of mass media. The efforts which has been taken by the B.R. Ambedkar in shaping of our nation forms an important component of your GS1 paper under the theme of Modern Indian History and Significant Personalities. Well, B.R. Ambedkar, who is considered as the father of our Indian Constitution, fondly called as Baba Saheb, a social reformer, an eminent political jurist, and a stalwart leader of our India's freedom. A small part in this analyst will not do justice to the achievements of B.R. Ambedkar. So, we will just try to remain our focus on the salient events of Baba Saheb and with their relevance to the upcoming prelims examination. B.R. Ambedkar, who was born in the year of 1891. Coming from a Mahar caste considered as untouchable, in the year of 1897, Baba Saheb became the only untouchable enrolled in the Elphinstone College in Bombay. Then in 1930, he secured a Baroda State Scholarship by the then Sayaji Rao Gaikwad III to ensure post-graduation in Columbia University in New York. It was there in 1916 when he published a paper on caste in India, its mechanism, genesis and development, showing the earlier understanding of B.R. Ambedkar on the caste dynamics of our country. Then, from 1916 to 1918, he ensured PhD from Columbia, a doctoral thesis from the London School of Economics, and after that he started teaching at a Sydenham College in Bombay. It was the year of 1918 which transformed the life of B.R. Ambedkar from being a genius prodigy to becoming the leader of the voice of downtrodden, where he was asked to testify before the South Borough Committee, who was at that time drafting the Government of India Act 1919 or the Montague-Chelmsford reforms of 1919. It was here that B.R. Ambedkar argued for the first time for separate electorate and reservation for untouchables. And to further disseminate his ideas, in 1920, he started publishing a weekly newspaper, Mook Nayak, along with the Shahu of Kolhapur. Then, in the year of 1924, he established the Bahishkrit Hitkarni Sabha for the upliftment of untouchables and Dalit with the objective of educate, organize and agitate, which is also reflected from his saying that education is the milk of lawlessness. Who will drink it will surely roar. Then, in the year of 1927, B.R. Ambedkar finally exploded into the scene of national politics when he launched an anti-untouchable movement in the form of Mahat Satyagraha, where the major demand was to provide access to the untouchable or to the people of Mahad to get access to the water tank from which they were refrained to, as that water tank was reserved for only upper caste people. Then, from the year of 1930 to 1932, he was part of all the 3 round table conferences, which took place in the light of the civil disobedience movement of 1930, which was launched by the Indian National Congress with the demand of complete independence or Purna Swaraj. In all of these 3 roundtable conferences, B.R. Ambedkar demanded for separate electorate for untouchables or lower caste people, and thus by the year of 1932, the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald provided for communal awards granting separate electorates to the untouchables. The idea of separate electorate was floated from the Morley-Minto reforms of 1909, which eventually meant that there will be certain seats, earlier 71, which will be reserved for untouchables, and these untouchables can only be voted or elected by the untouchable people only. However, Gandhi was bitterly opposed to this communal award, as he saw it as a step taken by the Britishers to divide the Hindu society. And thus Mahatma Gandhi, who because of the civil disobedience movement at that time was lodged in Yerewada Pune jail, went fast unto death. Thus, finally, the Pune Pact was signed between Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar as the representative of Dalit and Madan Mohan Malvi as the representative of Hindus, which did not provide for separate electorate, rather reservation for untouchables or lower caste people, where 148 seats were reserved for them. And such reservation provision was incorporated in the Government of India Act 1935. You guys can see here M.R. Jaikar, Tej Bahadur Sapru and Ambedkar at Yerewada jail in Pune after the Pune Pact was signed. Then in the year of 1936, B.R. Ambedkar launched the Independent Labour Party. He fought the 1937 elections and were elected from the Bombay legislature. In the very same year of 1936, he also published his book Annihilation of Caste, where he criticized the orthodoxy in the Hindu religion. In the year of 1942, B.R. Ambedkar became the member of the Viceroy's Executive Council. Then, from the year of 1947 to 50, Baba Saheb served as the chairman of the drafting committee, which eventually led to the establishment of our constitution and the provisions of it, such as Article 14, right to equality. Then in the year 1951, when the elections took place for the first time, he was elected from the Rajya Sabha and became the first law minister of the country. However, keep this in mind that he resigned the very same year when the Hindu Code Bill was opposed and ultimately not passed by the parliament. In the year of 1956, also the fateful year of his life, he converted to Buddhism and formed the Bharatiya Buddha Mahasabha. Keep this in mind that the efforts which has been taken by the B.R. Ambedkar to ensure right to equality and fraternity in our country is still guides us towards our future. At the same time, while there is increasing division of society on the lines of caste and religion, the teachings of B.R. Ambedkar has become much more important in today's time, and it shall be disseminated through several media platforms. With this, we move forward to the next news of the day. Astronomers have recently solved puzzles related to Dragon's Egg Nebula as per a study published in the journal Science. This nebula forms an important component of your upcoming prelims examination under the theme of science and technology. So let's first try to understand what exactly is nebula. Nebula is basically a celestial formation in space which contains huge clouds of gas and stellar particles or dust particles, which are basically several kind of elements, gases, etc. The core of this nebula consists of two most abundant gas of the universe, which is hydrogen and helium. And then these gases, they start intermingling with other heavier elements such as carbon, nitrogen and oxygen. Because of such intermingling, due to the force of gravity, there takes place the compression of gas, and these stellar particles, they start coalescing into a space. As you guys can see here, first there was a dense core. Then there led to the gravitational collapse because of the intermingling of different elements. Over a period of time, there starts a formation of a disk. Then, because there starts emerging a central star where everything is coming from element and they are colliding with each other, and there has been started taking place a burning of elements. And over a period of time, ultimately this nebula will turn into a star. Now the question arises that what is a dragon star or a dragon's egg nebula? Well, dragon's egg nebula is basically two gravitationally bound stars, which are also called as a binary system, which are ultimately residing in a nebula. The reason why these two stars are called as dragon's egg, because they are located near a large nebula complex which is called as the fighting dragon of Era. Now, because of the blending of these stellar material, as we discussed earlier, inside the nebula, it actually creates a magnetic field. And this was the puzzle which astronomers were trying to figure out. Because one of these stars has a magnetic field while the other star is completely devoid of it. These two stars or this binary system is around 3,700 light years away from the Earth. Light year basically is the measure of the distance. The distance which light covers in 1 year of time, which stands around 9.5 trillion kilometers. Keep this concept of nebula, the formation of a star, as well as dragon's egg very dear to you for the upcoming prelims, and we move forward to the next segment of our news. In this particular section, we are going to cover some important news snippets which are very relevant for your upcoming prelims examination. The first of which is cryogenic. Cryogenic is basically the science of material below 153 degrees Celsius minus 153 degrees Celsius of temperature, which ultimately provides thermal conditions in which gases such as hydrogen and nitrogen, which has very low boiling temperature, they remain in the form of liquid. Now this cryogenic has a lot of use in space missions and provides several kind of potential benefits. For example, cryogenic hydrogen and oxygen, it powers the third stage of the launch vehicle 3 of ISRO, which will eventually help us taking our Indian scientists into space under Gaganyaan mission. Then this cryogenic can also make steels harder and stronger, and they are also used in the magnetic resonance imaging or MRI scans as well. Then we will discuss about the G7 grouping, which has been in the news. The G7 grouping is basically an informal forum of 7 developed nations such as Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom and United States. To remember this, just remember the important players of World War II and you will remember these countries as well. These countries just meet at a public platform to discuss on energy policies, international security and global economic control. In 2022, the meeting of G7 was hosted by Germany and in 2023, it was hosted by Japan. Now, moving forward, we will discuss about a term which has surfaced in the news called as doxing. What does doxing stands for? Doxing is basically the act of digitally publicizing a person's private details such as your home address, your phone number, your email ID, your government documents such as Aadhaar card or your live location without your permission. And now several entities which is basically causing the cyber frauds, they are using several measures and tools to do this practice of doxing, thus compromising the privacy of an individual. There are several ways which doxers use to get the details such as cyber stalking or IP logging or searching for your records in public records or the case of phishing. So be aware of such issues which are taking rampantly around in our society. And we move forward to the last news of the day, which talks about the election symbols which are allotted by the Election Commission of India under the Election Symbols Order 1968. Now let's suppose that if you are an unrecognized party, you will not get a fixed or exclusive symbol, rather you will get any free symbol which is available, which will obviously be non-exclusive. However, if you are a recognized party, which means you are a state or a national party, then you will get exclusive symbols like this. What if that there existed a party, it had a symbol, let's say cycle. What if that now this party has been splitted? One tire has gone in this hand, one tire has gone at the other hand. Now what will happen? In this case, in the claim of rival factions in the case of split, the decision will lie in the hand of Election Commission of India as it decided with the split which took place among the Shiv Sena. With this, we have reached to the end of the discussion today. Do not forget to attempt the questions at the end of the video and test your knowledge. We will meet in a very interesting discussion very soon. Till then, all the very best for your preparation and thank you.